Check, check, check. Mic 1, 2. Can you hear me? Live chat. NPD results for August have just dropped, so we definitely got some stuff to talk about. What up? I always have wondered how to pronounce your name there. I think it's Rang Tolu. I think that's right. I know we've interacted for a long time on forums, but hello, good to see you here for the live chat for the first time live. That's awesome. Puckland, what is up? Okay, everybody, so let's talk NPD for August, right? A lot just dropped. What is up, Wound Up Penguin? What is up, Exile End? How this works for anyone that hasn't been part of the live chat before, just drop your questions right on the side here on the live chat. Any questions you have, any opinions you have, I'll get to as many as I can. I usually hit through and get pretty much everybody as much as possible. So you can start dropping whatever you want. If you want to talk hardware, if you want to talk software, obviously I can't leak any NPD data on here. So don't ask for like units or anything like that. I can't give any of that kind of information out. But I definitely talk about trends, what I think looked good, what I think looked bad, things that met my expectations, things that missed, all of that. I'm going to really quick pull up on my top 20 and all that, and we'll get that going. All right. Another stream. Nice. What's up, Empty and Full? Welcome to the stream. Okay. So first, let's hit on that top 20. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to pull it up right now. Sorry, this is taking a second. I promise I'm almost there. Okay. All right, so what your best-selling game of the month was Madden, which is, of course, very obvious. I think pretty much all of us expected that. It actually hit in July tracking as well, but hit at the very end of the month. It only had a couple days of tracking, and just those couple days were enough to make Madden the #1 selling game in July. So, of course, with a full month of tracking in August, it was clearly going to be your #1, right? There were several new releases this month, but of course, none of them are going to be anywhere near the size Madden is. So Madden's your #1, great result, very obvious. Minecraft at #2, that's very impressive. We've been talking lately on the live chats and as well as on Twitter that Minecraft's been making a bit of a comeback lately. For a while, you saw it kind of dip down on the charts. Minecraft was never a dead game, but it definitely didn't seem like it had all that momentum that it used to. And over the last several months, you've been seeing Minecraft really pick up steam again, big time. So #2 for Minecraft, very impressive. Grand Theft Auto 5 at #3. That game will chart literally, I think, forever at this point. I mean, is Grand Theft Auto 5 never going to stop charting? When next gen gets here, it's probably still going to be on your top 20. Honestly, it really might still show up on your top 20 when next gen hits. That's how crazy that game is. Fire Emblem at #4. That's pretty amazing, right? I expected very strong legs from it. But wow, yeah, #4. That is incredibly impressive. Wow. For a Fire Emblem game on its second month, right? Normally #4 for a Fire Emblem game in its launch month would be a good result. But on its second month to be #4, wow. Great result for Fire Emblem. #5, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. That game is just evergreen. It just does not stop selling. It seems to be the go-to evergreen title for the Switch. Mario Maker 2 at #6. That's a great result. That game is still holding on strong. Mario Kart 8 at #7. Again, I tweeted about this. 9 of your top 20 games are all Switch exclusive this month. That's crazy. Now, granted, that's not going to be the case every month. August is one of the slower months of the year. It's a very slow month, so it's much easier for, say, some games that have been out for a while to chart, but that kind of shows you that the Switch exclusives are really hitting that evergreen status, right? They just keep selling, and they keep selling, and they keep selling. So in these slow months, I mean, 9 of your top 20, that's almost half of your top 20 are games you can only get on the Switch. That is crazy. That is an amazing result. Mortal Kombat at #8, Tom Clancy's at #9, Astral Chain #10. Good result. We're starting to get a lot of questions dropping in here, so I'm actually gonna, since that was the top 10, I'm gonna start diving into your questions. I just wanted to list off some of the big results first. So let's hit up your questions. Okay, Wound Up Penguin. You're the first question I think I can see here. We got to talk. Astral Chain got 2 days of tracking and got to 10 and Control didn't even chart top 20 on 3 platforms with a weak head start. Okay, yeah, let's talk about this, right? That seemed to be a hot topic leading into this month. Which would be better? Would it be Control? Would it be Astral Chain? Where would they chart on the charts? So if you watched my predictions live chat, I predicted I got part of this dead right, and part of it I got wrong here. So something underperformed my expectations. I'm sure you all know. But I predicted that both Astral Chain and Control wouldn't have super impressive results because of very short tracking periods. Astral Chain only had 2 days and Control only had 5 days of tracking in the charts. And also because Control and Astral Chain are both lacking digital. Neither one of these games have any of their digital sales included. So I wasn't expecting super high chart positions for either one. I predicted low top 10 to top 15 for both of them. So Astral Chain falls right in there, right where I was expecting, though it is a good result, right? For 2 days and no digital for a platinum game, especially. I think this is a very good result for Astral Chain. It's about what I was expecting, but I think it's good. Yeah, I don't think this is a bad launch at all. A good result for Astral Chain. Control, on the other hand, I was expecting it somewhere in that top 15. So for it to completely miss top 20, again, we don't have digital here. We just have physical, but that is rough. That's a huge bummer, especially because I love that game. I can tell you, this is just a little thing. If digital was included, it very likely would have made top 20 based on where it is. I can't go into any more details than that. But if digital was included, I do believe it would have made that top 20, but I don't think it would have been super high anyways. So digital would have helped, right? It doesn't have any of its PC sales included. So for a multi-platform game, I mean, PC is definitely a chunk. I don't know that it was the majority of sales, but it's definitely a pretty big chunk. So to be missing all of that PC, that's a huge bummer for Control. But still, let's say we rolled digital into it. Let's say we still included that. Still wouldn't have been a super strong result. So I hate to see that. It wasn't long tracking. So again, this isn't a huge budget game. I don't want to necessarily declare that this is a flop yet until we hear something from 505 and Remedy. I would like to get their opinion on this based on budget, where it is. I think it's important to get some PR out on this game because of the way it looks on charts. If it is doing okay, right? If 505 and Remedy are very happy with how it's performing, I think they need to get that word out there because very quickly the narrative can form that Control is not doing well. So my opinion on Astral Chain and Control, I think Control is a disappointment from what we can see. Not like shockingly so, because I was only predicting like top 15 anyway. So I didn't think it was going to be super high. It's like I was predicting this game. Oh, it's number 2 and it missed. What? I'm shocked. But it's definitely softer than I expected. Astral Chain, very good. Okay, next up, Casey Dong. Shame about Control. Maybe taking the Epic exclusivity deal actually ended up being a good decision. Yeah, no way to know. I'm sure having that money helps, right? There's a reason you're seeing a lot of these companies take these Epic exclusive deals. Definitely taking in that money is very nice. But yeah, we don't know. We just don't know how much it's made, how much Control is making compared to its budget. We really don't know. So could have been a good thing. Michelle Tackett here. Tackett. Control looks like a good game, so I'm sorry it didn't sell. That sucks. Yeah, I love it. It's so good. Right now, it's my game of the year. I don't expect this to be everyone's game of the year. It definitely has some issues, some flaws. It just really appeals to me. A lot of people know I love Alan Wake. I really love games with like these really weird stories and these very strange kind of out there concepts. And Control is very much in that vein as well. It's another reason I'm looking forward to Death Stranding. But yeah, I do think it's a great game, and it is a bummer it's not higher on the charts. Ryan here, Grand Theft Auto 5 is just Minecraft now. I mean, basically, right? In terms of like charting, Grand Theft Auto 5 and Minecraft are just those two games. Exile End, Grand Theft Auto 5 next gen port. Ooh, good question. I don't necessarily think it's going to get a next gen port because I'm thinking they'll probably have Grand Theft Auto 6 ready pretty quickly for next gen. This is just a guess. This isn't insider info, but you got to think if Red Dead came out, last year, We have a year off this year, then a whole nother year basically in 2020 until next gen consoles get here. I'm not saying I expect Grand Theft Auto 6 at launch because I really don't expect that. But I think it'll be kind of quick into the next gen, probably within those first 2 years. So maybe they might, just to squeeze a year or two more out of Grand Theft Auto 5, like maybe. But maybe not, right? Because I don't think Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be like a Red Dead situation where we got Red Dead like really late into this generation. Besides that, there wasn't Rockstar besides the port. I think 6 will be quicker. I think you'll see it within those first 2-ish years of next gen would be my guess. JC Zero Edge, kind of forward-looking question. Okay, but does Death Stranding's gameplay loop limit its sales potential? Good question. I think Death Stranding, my opinion on what I've seen now after seeing a big chunk of gameplay, I think there's going to be a very divisive game. I'm super looking forward to it. It's that weird concept stuff, like I was talking about that I love. I love Kojima. But it is definitely out there, right? Even the gameplay, it's not like your typical, hardcore, shooter or action adventure game. It's doing its own thing, a lot of exploration. I could see some people seeing the game, and I haven't played it yet, but I could see some people having the perspective that maybe the game's a little too slow for them or things like that. So tough question. I do think it's going to be really big out of the gate. Tracking for it is really, really, really good. Really strong metrics. So I think launch for Death Stranding is going to be dang good, no matter what, no matter how it's received. I think it's going to be very, very strong. Long term, I don't know. That is a good question. The gameplay, I could see it being divisive, but I'm looking forward to it. My personal opinion is I think it looks awesome. Ryan, Smash Ultimate is also a monster. Yeah, absolutely. Just a beast. Paul Crooks, what do you think is the reason for the Minecraft renaissance in 2019? I expected the placement on the Switch chart to be higher relative to the exclusives with the number 2 overall position. That's a really good question, Paul. And I'm not as clued in, to what's going on in Minecraft right now as other people. I'm sure there's people that play Minecraft all the time that know about updates that are going on and things like this. I've played a bunch of Minecraft, but I'll be honest, I haven't played it, in probably 6-8 months. It's been a while. So, I don't know. I honestly can't explain the resurgence to you. I know it's been doing better on Twitch as well. Overall, I know it's been getting some viewership there. So I don't know if maybe a little bit of that's having a rub-off effect or what, but it's definitely is getting a renaissance, like for sure. If all you have to do is just look at its chart placement, look at where it was charting, like 6-8 months ago, and look at where it's been charting like the last, 3 months. Definitely Minecraft has been coming back strong, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure why, but game just doesn't die. Casey Dong here. How well do you think Nintendo's new fitness thing will do? I think the high price of the base Switch will limit it from exploding like Wii Fit did, maybe 5 million units or so. Tough call, especially because a lot of people got burned by their Labo predictions, right? So let's talk about that, because this is the closest thing we can compare it to. Obviously, very different than Labo, but I'm comparing it more to that than like Wii Fit right now in terms of how I'm thinking about it, because the platforms are just so different, right? And as we saw, Labo was a really out there concept. I think Labo is actually even harder to sell than this is, for sure. The idea of going out and buying cardboard and stuff like that. But what I mean by a lot of people got burned on their predictions on that is the original, when Labo's trailer first dropped, right? The amount of discussion it drove online, the amount of views it was doing on YouTube. If you were someone that kind of pays attention to that stuff, you would be thinking, wow, like, this is looking like it might be really big, right? It's driving a ton of discussion on Twitter. It was all over the place. And yet none of that really translated into sales. Labo, it just never took off. It was never like a big thing. So all of that early anticipation that built for it, it just didn't go through in terms of actual sales to consumers. For this, I didn't see like a huge swell of craziness like I saw with Labo, but I actually think that this is a better, easier to sell concept than Labo was. I think as long as like the RPG elements of it are fun, I think like you could even get some core gamers into this. Clearly this is an attempt by Nintendo to broaden their market, right? Like clearly, I think we can all see that. And the Switch right now hasn't necessarily hit on like those Wii type customers, right? Those more casual, those more broad. The Switch has been doing amazing, but it's doing amazing selling to that core market mostly. They've been, hitting some of that more casual demographic, that more broad gamer. But really, one of the reasons why Switch is so strong is because the core community has really accepted it. So to answer your question on how I think this is going to sell, a bit tough. I do think it's going to do, my early prediction on this was seeing no tracking anything. I think it's going to do well. I think it's going to do better than Labo. That's my personal prediction. I do think this will do better than Labo. But yeah, if it's going to be the next Wii Fit, for example, that I'm just not sure. I'm not sure. It's so tough to call with the Switch because it just hasn't hit that demographic yet. Maybe this is, right? Maybe this is the thing that hooks that really broad demo. Could be, but I'm not sure. That demo isn't necessarily on the Switch yet. All right, next question here. Michelle, for 2 days to crack the top 10 is very impressive. I mean, I know what you mean, but think about that. Oh, no, Michelle, I agree. I think Astral Chain had a really good performance, personally. It's, like I said, right where I expected it, basically. And my expectations for it were that it was going to do good. I think some people mistook one of the tweets I sent out there about its UK performance, for example, as me thinking that Astral Chain was doing bad. Whenever I was saying I was surprised at how excited people were about it hitting #1 in the UK, but the actual like unit volume wasn't crazy high. I think some people took that as in like, oh, Benji thinks it's doing bad. I definitely never thought it was doing bad. I think Astral Chain is doing really good for the size IP it is. I was just kind of trying to get the narrative out there. I didn't want people to think all of a sudden it's going to hit like #2 on NPD or something like that. #10, it's a good seller. It's nothing like, insane. It's not like hitting, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of units, but it's a good result for sure. It's definitely good for Platinum. It's a good result. You've seen them even come out and say that they are, really excited about how that game's performing. So Michelle, definitely, I agree. For 2 days, very good performance for Astral Chain. Ring, this is a response to Casey here. In my opinion, you should not expect any more than 1-2 Switch, which sold 3 million. Okay, so that's your expectation for the exercise game. I just can't completely brain blanked out on that. 1-2 Switch sales, I could see something like that. Yeah, maybe even a little bit stronger, but I think that's a fair, safe, bottom line right around there. I think that's fine. Michelle, I think if Astral Chain would have had its digital sales, it would have been at #8 or 7. It definitely would have been higher, right? For sure. I really wish Nintendo. Here's the thing, right? Let's go back to Control really quick. I just don't understand why, if you're a publisher nowadays, why you're not sharing that digital data. Because here's the thing: these storylines, right? They gain a lot of traction. And people know games that underperform drop price quick a lot of times. And so they will hold out now for sales. If I'm a publisher, I want to look good on that NPD chart. I'm just telling you, because it gets a lot of discussion. NPD, results drive a lot of discussion. I don't understand why, if you're Nintendo, if you're 505, I get it. They don't necessarily want their competitors to see their full data, their percentages, things like that, right? Because that does show up on the report, right? If you're going to give that data out, that means that other companies will be able to see the full results of your game sales. So, but do you really want your game? Let's say Control could have been top 20. Let's say even, who knows, because we don't know what it sold on PC. What if it would have put it at like 15 or 14, something like that? I'm not saying it would have been, but let's just say, how different would the discussion be about Control right now? right? Right now, the discussion is, man, look at how Control bombed. It's not on your top 20. It's nowhere to be seen. What a disappointment. If it was top 15, I'm sure some people would still be saying, wow, the game underperformed, but it would be more like, okay, it's not a disaster. I just don't understand. I do not understand the thought process behind, if you're a publisher now, why you're not. You want that discussion to be good. You want people to think your game's doing strong on the market. You want them to go out and buy that game because, hey, other people are buying this game. I just don't get it. Don't get it. So, yes, Astral Chain definitely would have been done better with digital. And unfortunately, Nintendo is one of the publishers who's still just not on board with sharing that. Michelle, your game of the year is just as valid as mine. Mine is a tie between Fire Emblem and Astral Chain, but Control is a good pick. Yeah, Fire Emblem I loved. It's definitely going to be on my top 10 game of the year list for sure, unless, the remaining slew of games is just shockingly good. But yeah, it's definitely there. It's my favorite RPG this year. And Astral Chain, the intro, but then I started playing Gears 5. So right after I finished Gears 5, I'm jumping back into Astral Chain. But the little bit I played, it seemed awesome. Exile End, I still don't know what the game is about, fam. I'm not sure which game you're referring to. Maybe Death Stranding, and if so, I don't even really know what it's about still. Michelle, it's weird, so I think it will have a small base, maybe 500,000 to a million. JC, Labo VR was pretty cool. I've heard that, JC. I didn't get a chance to play it, but I've heard. Wound Up Penguin, hit that like button. I will not say no to that. If you want to hit that like button, it helps the channel out. What are we at here? 21. I'll go for probably 30 minutes. So we got like 9 more minutes. I'll do the chat. If you have any other questions about August NPD results, make sure you drop those, or any other sales questions. Michelle, I know, count digital sales for Pete's sake. Sheesh, yes, thank you. Ryan, I'm in love with Nintendo, but man, I hate how in 2020 they don't share digital numbers. Yes, I agree with all of you. I agree. You're 100% correct. The stranger part about it is that usually Nintendo is the most share our numbers to everyone company. Agreed. A lot of times they'll come out and put out their own PR, and they'll even say with digital, the game sold this much, but that's a good question for Matt Piscatella from NPD. I'm sure he knows a lot more about what's going on there and why they are still so uncomfortable sharing data. Of course, I highly doubt he can comment on it, but he would know a lot more than me on that situation. But to me, it's crazy. If you're a publisher nowadays and you're not sharing digital, I mean, you're basically just not showing, up to 50% of your sales. Like, they're just not showing on the chart. Now, for Nintendo, we do know, it's a bit lower than 50%. They're a little bit lower than, the rest of the industry average, but it's still growing. And for something like Control, I mean, if you count PC in there, it's definitely going to be a chunk, right? Definitely going to be a chunk. So it's crazy that they don't share that information. Michelle, I think Control would have been 15 if they counted PC and digital. It definitely would have been top 20. I can tell you that. Like, definitely. It would have been top 20. How high up? Not 100% sure. 15 could have. Who knows? But it definitely would have made your top 20. So just not sharing that made their game not chart. And now we have this whole discussion about it. JC, the vouchers from it seems like it, and it seems like it's especially having a huge effect in Japan because the price difference there is like much stronger from what I hear. I've definitely started following the Japanese market a lot more than I used to. I used to kind of cursory glance at it, but as all of this has been building, as my Twitter's been building and these kind of things, I want to make sure I'm as informed as possible. I don't want to misinform people. So I have been paying attention to that Japanese market a lot more than I used to. And from what I'm hearing, the price difference in Japan especially makes those vouchers really attractive. So that's kind of why you're probably seeing games like Fire Emblem and Astral Chain not performing to the same like impressiveness as they are in the US, right? I'm sure those vouchers and like digital is strong, in the US, but it seems it's especially having an impact in Japan. So, for example, Fire Emblem in the US is like crushing. Its opening month, it was already the second best-selling Fire Emblem game ever, lifetime, in 1 month. And then here it's number 4 on the chart. Like, it's doing amazing for a Fire Emblem game. And in Japan, it's kind of mediocre in terms of physical. Like, its physical sales seem kind of not impressive. And from what I've heard from people I've been talking to that are really familiar with that market, they really think that those vouchers had a very strong impact. Michelle, he's talking about Death Stranding. Okay. Ramses Garcia, how down are console sales for Xbox and Sony? Okay. Will it get really dire next year? So yeah, let's talk about some hardware sales. Okay. Got to be careful what I talk about here, as always. Got to not go super into detail. But one thing I can mention, which Matt Piscatella mentioned as well, so he's already commented on it. So I feel totally comfortable commenting on it. Switch really carried the month. So if that doesn't tell you about what's going on with Xbox and PS4, because hardware sales were still down, like if you count all three consoles, they're still down hard. They're still down a lot. So if Switch is up year over year and it's carrying the month, you can kind of put it together. Xbox and PS4 are now looking good. In regards to that second part of your question, will it get dire next year? I think 2020, before next gen hits, has the possibility of being a disaster for hardware sales. I hate to say that because I want the industry to always be thriving. I want it to always be successful. But if things are slowing this hard in 2019, the software lineup next year is incredible. Like, wow. It might be the strongest year of the generation, actually. Like that last year, if you look at the amount of games that are on the way, Final Fantasy VII Remake, The Last of Us Part 2, Cyberpunk, Watch Dogs Legion, really good, surprisingly good in my opinion, and on, right? I could list a ton of games for here, but 2020 just looks so impressive for software, but all that software is coming so late, it's not going to have a huge hardware impact. And this gen is just slowing. So I hope I'm wrong on that. Obviously PS4 has a price drop in the wings. They've got a price drop next year, right? It's looking like they're not going to do a permanent price drop this year. It's almost over. We're in September now. So it looks like probably, they go all of 2019 with a permanent price cut, but you got to think they do one in 2020. So that will help. But overall, man, I think 2020 has the possibility to be rough, a very, 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 very rough year. But luckily, next gen's at the end of it. So if it is as brutal as I think it's going to be, luckily we'll have a huge upswell at the end of the year that will help a little bit, right? Wound Up Penguin, I have a question. When you say a game is tracking well before it has released, what do you mean? Do you mean chatter on social media, YouTube views, something else? So when I say a game's tracking well, it means a couple things. First of all, how do I put this? I can see pre-order data from some things, and I also have contacts that share with me pre-order data. Some of those actually work in the industry. So it just depends, right? Whenever I say something's tracking well, I usually mean a combination of A, pre-order data that has been shared with me, B, yes, trailer views and chatter on Twitter definitely are something I look at. It's not an exact 1-to-1 ratio as we saw with Labo, right? So I don't put all my faith in that, but it is something I look at. It is something definitely worth paying attention to, right? If a game's getting 0 chatter and it has like 10,000 views on its YouTube trailer, it's probably not tracking well. It's not definitive, but probably not. But it's a combination. I take a combination of some of the data I've seen, some of the data that has been shared with me from sources that will never be named, and also, yes, things like YouTube views, Twitter chatter, less so forums. I don't find forums to be that useful for tracking anything in terms of like anticipation, because that's like a very small core community. But bigger platforms like YouTube and Twitter, if you're ever curious, like you want to kind of have some fun tracking on your own, they're worth paying attention to. Don't put all your faith in it, but it's a metric worth paying attention to. I'll say that. Tech Money, Sony is the best. I am happy, Tech, that you love Sony. I definitely like Sony a lot as well. I think they are pretty awesome. But I do like all of them, right? Definitely like, I'm not just saying that. I do like Nintendo, Xbox, and Sony. So that is sweet, though. Paul Crooks, last question as I'm about to travel. Okay, yeah, I'm going to be wrapping this up pretty soon here too, probably in the next like 5-ish minutes. Last question is about to travel. How do you think Deadly Premonition 2 will perform? Ooh, interesting question. When it hits the market, a super strong cult following. Well, Paul, I would definitely go in with low expectations. That way, if it does well, you are happily surprised because I would expect this to still be niche. That doesn't mean it can't be successful. There are some people misunderstand. They think that like if you say a game is appealing to a niche market or like let's say a small market, they think that means that the game can't be successful. Definitely not. Not every game needs to sell 10 million copies. But yeah, I would expect like just super early thinking about it, Deadly Premonition 2 to still be like a cult kind of thing, still appeal to a relatively small group of people. But I think it can probably do better than the first, right? I do think over the years that interest has definitely gotten, a lot stronger than that original release was. It looks like it's going to have some marketing, with Nintendo behind it probably. So I do think it'll be better than Deadly Premonition 1 overall, but I still would not expect it to be like just blow up and be this huge success. If it is awesome, but I'd go in with low expectations just to be happily surprised. Tech Money, well, people getting ready for Black Friday next gen? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, exactly. People are getting ready for next gen. Console sales just are not super strong. Michelle, Death Stranding will do good. It's a good first week, but it will drop bad. Sell about 3 to 4 million. Ooh, interesting, Michelle. I can't comment on it without seeing the general, like how legs will be. I try to not talk about legs just because they're such an unknown factor. It's just so hard to tell. Before a game is out and before a game like is in a lot of people's hands, it's just so hard to call legs. First week, first month, much easier because you can kind of see anticipation. You can see the data coming in. But legs, I just don't comment on really until I've seen them out. 31, yeah, we're about to wrap up. Rying, I'm sorry, man. I do not know how to pronounce your name. This is going to be a long year, but holiday 2020 is going to be epic. A nice start for new Dedicate. Yeah, I am so excited for next gen. Next gen, I think the industry needs it. I think it really needs it. You're seeing that this year. Again, I'm not necessarily talking about in terms of like game quality because there's been a ton of, and of course this doesn't apply to Nintendo. Nintendo's just on fire with the Switch. It's annihilating. But I mean really like Xbox, PlayStation, that community, the industry's hurting, right? August, Matt came out and talked about it. So August NPD, like August in the US this year was the lowest month in spending. I believe, I could be wrong here. Someone can correct me in chat if I'm wrong here. I think he said since 1998. Like that is the last time dollar sales were this low. And if that's true, which I mean, Matt would know this, he is the man for this kind of thing. That is crazy. That is absolutely insane, y'all. That's bad. So yeah, we need a new generation. We need a new generation desperately. My personal opinion, I've talked about this before. I think it would have been better for the industry if next gen was this holiday, just like as a health thing, not necessarily like, I think people are going to be like general consumers are going to just be more on board in 2020, but for the health of this industry, and I totally get why they're not this year, right? It could not have been possible for the tech they want to put in that box for the price point that they want to launch this year. It just didn't end up happening. So I'm not saying Sony and Microsoft are wrong for waiting until 2020. I totally get why next gen is coming then. But for industry health, if the stars could have aligned, I think 2019 would have just been so much better. All right, I'm going to just take the questions that are left here, and then we're going to call a chat. Thanks, everyone, for coming in. All right, Ken B, any thoughts on how Switch Lite will do in US? Great question. This is a good way to wrap the chat up. I think it will crush in Japan, but not sure about here. Okay, so Lite, I think, like you said, is going to do excellent in Japan. So first of all, the revision Switch, had an impact in the US, but not like a crazy one. I'm talking about the Switch that came out with the better battery. Not like this like massive, crazy, huge boost. It did have an effect. As you saw, Switch is up year over year in the US, but it wasn't like this massive wave, right? Whereas in Japan, like the last 2 weeks since that revision launched in Japan, sales have been very, very strong, very, very strong. And that's without the Lite, right? As we know, Japan definitely really likes portables due to the way that the country operates over there. So much public transportation and things like that. A lot of people like handhelds on the go, things like that. So that better battery life definitely appealed there. Nintendo did a lot of marketing, from what I'm told, for that there. Whereas in the US, it was kind of like a stealth launch. Like, honestly, the way that the new Switch came out, I can tell you, and some of you may have seen this online, but also from talking to retailers, it just kind of like trickled in randomly. Like, some stores were getting it this date, some got it this date, some got some in half their stores. Like, it just kind of trickled in as they phased out, and they're still phasing out the older model Switch. It just kind of came in. Whereas in Japan, it was much more of like an event, much more built up. So in terms of the Lite, I'm expecting it to just do amazing numbers in Japan. And I do think it's going to be very strong in the US. My prediction is very strong. Impossible to know before launch. I'll have a lot to talk about on my YouTube and Twitter in the coming weeks as I start seeing that data. You'll trust me, you will see me talking about it. But my early feelings is that's going to do really well. Getting $100 off that price point helps a lot. Now, granted, you lose the docking functionality, but you make it much more appealing, especially to kids, right? Kids with Pokemon. Pokemon's right around the corner. It's only a couple months away. So if you're a parent with a younger child, right, not every parent wants to go out and buy their 7-year-old or 8-year-old a $300 console. It's a bit tough. Some people will for sure, but not everyone. $200 is much more enticing. So I do think the Lite's going to do really well. That's my prediction, is it does well in both markets. I think it's going to do huge in Japan and huge in the US. I expect this holiday, just to finish that up, I expect this holiday up from last year's holiday. And last year's holiday for Nintendo in November and December was excellent. So I expect November and December this year, off the strength of the software releases as well as the Lite, to be extremely impressive. All right, I think we're almost done. We've got like 2 questions left. Rang, it's Rang. Oh, Rang. Okay. Rang. Okay. Don't worry, everyone. Have trouble pronouncing my name. Awesome. And yes, he said here, by the way, Matt said 1998. Yeah, that is crazy. That is insane. This August was the lowest since 1998. Think about how long ago that was. That's what I'm saying. We need a new generation. We really need a new gen. Luckily, next year. All right, let's wrap it up. Wound up. Thanks for a great stream. Thank you for watching. Empty and Full, great stream as usual. Thanks, Empty and Full. Thank you, everyone who came into the stream. I love doing these live chats. I love doing this stuff with you. I try to do them like once a week. Sometimes we hit like twice a week. I'll be back whenever there's more big info to talk about. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button. Helps the channel out a bunch. And make sure you subscribe as well to my YouTube. I'm not as active on YouTube as I am on Twitter, but it's much easier to be like interactive on these live chats than it is on Twitter. If some of my posts get so many comments and it's hard to go in and answer every single one, typing that here, it's so much easier to just respond and have this interaction. So thanks, everyone. I will see you next time. Have a good evening.